Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Andrew, coming to you from the beautiful Carolinas. Today's topic is going to be post-relationship, the challenge. Think about that for a minute. Everyone, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. So post-relationship, let's say you were discarded or it ended, you ended it. There will be many challenges along the way. You are now on the healing path. You are now on the path to discovery of exactly what narcissism is, what role you played in that narcissistic relationship, how you got involved in it, why you stayed in it so long, and understanding that this is the path. This is what you must go through. You had to experience the narcissistic relationship to get to this point in time right here, right now with me. This, once you do the work, once you put in the commitment, the time, the energy, and you begin to understand what your purpose is, that you will begin to enter the third version of you, which is the best version of you possible. Remember, there are three versions of you. The first version of you is before you met the narcissist, whoever you were back then. The second version of you is when you were in the narcissistic relationship, when you were that puppet, that pawn, you were in the narcissistic fog. And the third version of you is after you have removed yourself from the narcissistic relationship and you have healed and or you are well on the healing path. You are understanding that you are the priority, that you come first, second, and third, and that no longer will you tolerate toxic, narcissistic, or toxic behaviors in general. But the challenges, here we go. Let's say you were discarded as an example. You're gonna find out rather quickly, first of all, that your support system is basically non-existent. What that means is the people that perhaps were your friends or your so-called friends or alleged friends, they will disappear. Many of them will. And many of them will actually want nothing to do with you. The reason why is because they most likely have already bought into the smear campaign, which was well underway a long time ago, most likely when you entered the devaluation stage or the narcissistic fog. That's one obstacle you're gonna have to clear. You're gonna have to understand that this path is your path and no one is gonna come to save you. It's just not gonna happen. Same thing with immediate family members or extended family members. They too may have bought into the smear campaign, or perhaps they just didn't have the bandwidth to wrap their head around what narcissistic abuse is. Because again, if you haven't experienced this kind of a relationship firsthand, it's very difficult for you to wrap your head around it. Now you can read books, you can watch videos, you can attend lectures or talk to therapists. It's all good. I understand the more education you get, the better. However, if you have not gone through the narcissistic abusive cycle, you don't speak the same language. It's just the way it works. You have to go through this fire to get the wisdom firsthand. It's not like you broke a bone and you go to the doctor and it gets reset and in 6 weeks you're healed. That's how the human body works. Narcissistic abuse is on a whole different level, a level you can't fathom, you can't wrap your head around unless you've gone through it. Other challenges you will have is understanding these people. Perhaps they tune out when you try to discuss the relationship. As I mentioned a moment ago, it's not their fault. They just don't understand what's going on. They can't, the person that they probably knew, perhaps it was your partner or a friend, they only saw one side of that person. They saw an alleged good side, the fake side. They saw the mask. They did not see the real, authentic, genuine person that you saw behind closed doors when you were being abused, gaslit, stonewalled, given the silent treatment, all these things. Other challenges you will have is that there will be a big void in time, which means, let's say that you got discarded, as I said, for this example. Well, before you got discarded, you were walking around on eggshells because your time was being occupied virtually 24/7, which means you were giving to a fault to the narcissist. You were doing what they wanted, when they wanted, with whom they wanted, and you were being controlled. That's why many times you perhaps experience financial abuse or future faking or blame shifting or the narcissist ghosting you, on and on, but you stayed in the relationship most likely because of the trauma bond, or perhaps you shared kids, or perhaps you were in a business with them, whatever the reason is, and there are many. The other challenges you'll figure out is that void that you now have, you're gonna have to fill it. You're gonna have to fill it with your time. And this is where many people get stuck. When the relationship ends, there is a huge void. And many times people don't even find out what narcissism is because they just understand that they were in a relationship that wasn't healthy, it wasn't good. And then they find channels like mine and many others. And again, thank you very much for being here. And they get their first light bulb moment. And they finally understand that there's a whole community. There's a whole group of us. There are billions of us out there that have gone through this, and that in fact they are not alone. Remember, I said that. You are not alone. Whether this is your first video ever consuming it or it's one of thousands, you're not alone. Back then, you may have thought you were, and perhaps you actually were. Perhaps you were isolated in your own house during C-19. You couldn't walk, you had a detached retina. That list goes on and on. But what did you do? You picked yourself up by the bootstraps. You dusted yourself off. You became educated. You filled that void. You understood that way back then that you had to go through this alone, because literally nobody would come to your door and knock on it to save you. As a matter of fact, no one knocked on your door at all. Having said that, the challenges, other challenges you will have to overcome. You will have to overcome things like cutting all ties with the narcissist, which means perhaps you will have to get your name off of bills, or their name off of your bills, or the mortgage, or the house, or assets, and things like that. Those will be challenges. Why I say that is because many times the narcissist wants you isolated, alone. They don't want you healing. They don't want you to improve. They certainly don't want you to thrive, I can tell you that. But on top of that, these are challenges, because many times you need, example, more than one signature to do something, to get it done. Let's say it's a divorce. Well, you can't divorce yourself, can you? No, you can't. By the way, why would you want to? Point being is, if you married the narcissist, you need to get divorced, and that is a whole different topic. The narcissist will drag that out as long as possible. Why? Because they want to see you in discomfort. They want you still pining for them, or they want you thinking that things could get better, or more importantly, they've already moved on to the new supply, so they don't care about getting divorced. In this case, perhaps all they care about is extracting as much financial resources from you as possible, and that happens all the time. Remember, if the narcissist discarded you, most likely they already had your replacement lined up. Number two, they knew that that relationship would end. It was just a matter of time, whether you caught on, or your resources were exhausted, or they found another new shiny toy that they wanted to incorporate into their world of manipulation, destruction, lies, deceit, and devastation, or maybe all three. But if they wanted to, when you wanted to divorce them, perhaps you wanted to do it to get it done with and just cut all ties with them. Remember, if it's something that you want, it's not something the narcissist will easily give. The narcissist is a selfish person. They care about themselves. They don't care about you. They care about virtually nobody on the planet but themselves. So that's another void. You're going to have to figure out how to get divorced, how to get the assets, maybe how to sell your house. Another void, another challenge will be, perhaps you're thinking of relocating. Perhaps you lived in a small town and you wanted to get out of that town, move to a different part of the country, or perhaps leave the country altogether. Who knows? But that's another challenge you would have to overcome, because in life, you can't just pack up and, I mean, you can pack up and leave, but usually in this day and age, in the year we're in, you should be doing your homework about the landing areas where you want to land, and which area, in other words, which part of the world fits you the best. In other words, where you are in a safe space. Other challenges you will have, you're going to have to restart your life. You're going to have to understand that most of your relationships from the past narcissistic relationship, those people, they should be removed if they haven't been already. Not all of them, but most of them. Certainly anyone who still communicates with the narcissist needs to be removed. You may not see it now, but it's true. You do not want to be one step away from the narcissist. And if you have one person in common with them, that means you're one step away, which means if you speak with that individual, chances are that individual will speak with the narcissist, and boom, you're one step away from falling back into the trap again. In other words, the narcissistic abusive cycle. Other challenges you will have, you may have to start a new job. You may have to figure out that people, in fact, weren't who you thought they were. That's a huge one, and you do have to do that, by the way. Another challenge you'll have is you'll have to understand that you are the priority. You come first, second, and third. No longer do you put other people high on a pedestal or on a pedestal at all. You now have grown and or are growing, and you're understanding that you really are the priority, that you have so much going, and so much going for you. And the narcissist saw this for a period of time, and they wanted to take it away from you, and they did. But no longer will you tolerate that. No longer will you be a people pleaser, a yes person. No longer will you not be able to say the magic word no, which is the strongest word in the English language. You now have boundaries. You now have come through the fire, and or you are coming through the fire, about to, and or you have risen through the ashes like a phoenix. You're now entering the third version of yourself, which is a galvanized individual. Someone, it's not the same person that you were days, weeks, months, years, decades ago. You now see things completely different through a new set of eyes. You don't see the world through rose-colored tinted glasses anymore. You don't believe in the false narrative of many people. Now, do you believe in people? Absolutely. Do you trust people? Absolutely. Do you give them as much slack and or opportunities to get to know you and or to cross your boundaries? No. Maybe a 2-strike rule. In other words, okay, if you made a mistake once and you overstepped the boundary, fair enough. We all make mistakes. Maybe I'll give you a second opportunity. If it happens again, adios. Don't need you. So these are all things that you will have to do. These are all challenges. And I'm just scratching the surface. There are so many more. How about this one? But when you got discarded or if the relationship ended, sleepless nights. That was a challenge, wasn't it? Remember those days you couldn't sleep or you slept periodically? You slept in small doses because you couldn't sleep steadily? There were so many things. Your health, another one. I'm certain you had health issues that you did not have before you met the narcissist. Those were challenges that you had to overcome also. Like I mentioned earlier, perhaps you had multiple knee surgeries, you couldn't walk. Perhaps you had a detached retina, you couldn't see. Perhaps you developed skin ailments or rashes or your hair was falling out, etc. These are all challenges. And like I mentioned, there are so many challenges that you go through in a narcissistic relationship and post-narcissistic relationship. And you have to do this many times alone. Many times you are your own best friend, which means you're now understanding that, wow, many people you believed in, they're not there. And that's just part of reality. But on top of that, you had 2 options. 1, to pick yourself up and move forward, or 2, to sit around and perhaps not do as much for yourself as you could. But eventually, if you made it this far in the video, I know for a fact you're a fighter. You are in the 3rd version of yourself, or you're entering it, or you're understanding that there is so much abundance and beauty out in this world for you. You just cannot let toxic individuals steal your energy or your time or your resources any longer. So like I said, that is a brief synopsis or a brief overview of the challenges you will face post-narcissistic relationship. There's a huge list. I mean, the 15-minute video can't do it justice, but I want to let you know that you will get through this in time, in your time. You will have to be determined, committed, resilient. You'll have to be strong. You will have to be understanding that things perhaps weren't the way you thought they were, and you'll have to practice radical acceptance. You will have to block and or say goodbye to people that perhaps you still love. Maybe there are family members, or maybe there were other people involved that you cared about and you loved, and they're just a casualty of the relationship. That's another challenge you'll have. Remember, before I close the video, in every narcissistic relationship, there are casualties of the relationship. You watching the video, I'm certain you were the main, you were in the relationship, so this affects you the most. I get it, but it affects so many extended people. Think of all the relationships. For the culmination of your relationship, think of all the lives that were impacted. Perhaps family members, extended family members, neighbors, business associates, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, kids, who knows? So that's the video, guys. I hope you liked it. I loved doing it from the sunny Carolinas. This is Andrew. Namaste. Have a great afternoon, evening, or morning. No matter where you are not alone. Remember that. No matter where on the planet you are, you're not alone. Continue to move forward each and every day. Continue to become the best version of yourself possible, and understand that you will get through this in time, in your time. It will take a mountain of work. It will take commitment. It will take persistence, due diligence. You will have some really high days. You'll have some not so high days. But the whole thing is the healing path is something you're now on. No matter when the relationship ended, yesterday or a lifetime ago. The point being, we are all on the healing path, headed in the same direction, just taking different footsteps. So guys, God bless you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, and continue to shine bright. I love you all. Bye, you guys.